life is not a linear path. There's growth and decay. It's the natural cycles of life where we build something, but then we have to shed it and let it go.
Hello, and welcome to the Seekers Solution Summit, where you can discover who you are on a deeper level to create freedom, joy, and abundance. I'm so excited to introduce to you today our speaker, Celeste Brooks. Celeste is a founder and principal astrologer at Astrology by Celeste. By understanding her celestial design, she's unlocked the mysteries of her personality, deepened her relationships with others, and provided a beacon for her life's purpose. Since living in sync with the celestial cycles, she's manifested early retirement from her corporate career. Before transitioning into astrology full-time, she had a successful sales and marketing career at a Fortune 500 company spanning over 25 years. She has an undergraduate degree in integrative biology from UC Berkeley and an MBA from St. Mary's College. Welcome, Celeste.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you as well. I love this story. I love the bio. Wow, you've sort of taken this meandering route to get to where you are today in astrology. Can you tell us a little bit more about your path? You have a degree in biology? Wow.
Yeah, so I started with my name is Celeste. This is my given name for my mother and father. Yes, and I have always been fascinated by Greek mythology. So I always connected to the archetypal energies or the archetypal stories that astrology relates to. But thought it was on a whim. I was invited to a class at this spa I love to go to, Rancho La Puerta in Mexico, about astrology by one of the teachers I had met there. And I said, sure. And it changed my life. It felt like a whim, but it was like the timing was exactly right with what was going on in my natal chart. And once I started learning astrology, it so impacted me by it helped me understand myself, my personality, the timing of things in my life, as well as other people. It really is the language of compassion when you understand there's certain things that are part of your core identity and personality. And like with everything, you can take the high road or the low road with certain things, but it just really teaches you so much about yourself and your loved ones. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that idea of the language of compassion, and I'd love to talk more about that. But first, I want to ask, like, how did you? So you had a whole nother career for 25 years, sales and marketing in a Fortune 500 company. Like, that's pretty serious. It sounds like you were very successful doing that. If you're doing that for so long, and Fortune 500 and all of that, and then your degrees were in something else completely different. And during that time, were you feeling called to something else, or did you think, yeah, this is it? This is, what my life is?
Yeah, I mean, I had a great career, yes, but it's very high stress. And it was starting to get to me, all the stress. And about 5 years ago, I guess, I realized, is this what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? I don't really want to do this forever, but I had no idea what I was going to do. And I have just considered myself an ultimate manifester. Everything I've wanted has come to me, not in necessarily the way I asked for it, but in some way, shape, or form. And I wanted to retire by age 50. And so from the corporate world, and I thought just retire. But anyway, I missed it by a week, but yeah, I was able to. Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing. Wow, you actually manifested that. So when you did that, were you using astrology along the way
Yes.
there? Oh,
So I am a Taurus sun, which gives me that practical stability, the ability to, have, do the manifesting in the corporate world. I'm an Aries moon but I'm willing to take risks. I like everything to have some fun. I have some faith that I can, I can make it. Fire energy is inspirational. It's like you may not be able to see it, but you can believe it kind of thing. And then I'm a Cancer rising. So that gives me a warm consultative approach,
Mhm.
where I and very intuition.
Mhm.
But the moon rules the sign of Cancer. And one of my specialties with astrology is the moon and the moon cycles. The
Mhm.
moon changes signs every 2.5 days. It meets with the sun at the same degree every month, approximately. A month comes from the moon, a moon. Astrology is a calendar, essentially.
Yeah.
And so the sun and the moon meet, and then they whisper secrets to each other about what they want to bring forth in your life.
Mm.
And then as the moon pulls ahead of the sun, there's an action point every week. So at the first quarter moon, where we see the moon in the sky and it looks like a half moon, this is called a crisis of action. It's a time where people make decisions
Mhm.
and do things. And if you start tracking it, you'll notice that that's the time when you really start making decisions. A week later is the full moon, where all is revealed. And then the first half is a growth cycle and the last half is a decay cycle. So life is not a linear path. There's growth and decay is the natural cycles of life, where we build something but then we have to shed it and let it go. So a week after the full moon, there's a last quarter moon, where it's like lessons learned, and we really can look back and see where we started and where we are now. But then we're ready to start a new story, and the next month there's a new moon in a different sign, in a different house in our chart. And yeah, and so I worked with these intentionally by setting intentions based on the sign of the moon and what house and the houses of the natal chart speak to what areas of life are in focus.
Mhm.
And so I was able to break this massive task of starting a business down while I was working in another very high stress job into bite-sized pieces, where I just worked on one thing, each month. And that was what allowed me to use the astrology to bring my business forth in life. There's also these larger 27-month moon cycles. It's called lunar gestational families, when you're growing something in your life, where you break it down into these pieces as well. So I hope that wasn't too complicated, but that's
No,
essentially.
not at all. That's wonderful. I love that. I love your explanation of it. And the moon is so real to us because we can just go outside and see it. So, having those touch points, but understanding the meaning behind it is really great and the
Mhm.
energies that are present. So during that time when you
Oh,
were
can I say one more
yeah,
thing?
yeah,
Yeah, so the sun rules our conscious mind. That's what's, right in front of us and what we're aware of. The moon rules our subconscious mind. So and it rules our habits, it rules our behaviors, it rules what we need to feel safe, it rules our emotions, it rules a lot of things, our environment.
yeah.
And so when we sync with, these two energies, it really helps us understand ourselves better and understand what life is calling for us to do as well.
Beautiful. And so when you were using the moon energies as you were sort of building this path to retire, and what was your experience of that? Like, what did you see sort of unfold in front of you? Like you said, each month there was a different area of focus. Like, what actually happened? How did you experience that?
So the thing I most experience with working with the moon, because the moon changes signs every 2.5 days,
Mhm.
and so it goes through each of the 12 signs every month.
Wow.
And so I realized, like, it used to be you would ask me what happened last week. I would have no idea. I would feel like nothing was going on in my life.
Yeah.
When you start, like, really seeing, working with this and understanding the energies, you really see how much happens in your life on a daily, a weekly basis. If you look at, like, with the moon, each moon sign has a flavor to it,
Mm.
and you learn about how you feel, how productive you are, how other people behave, and all of this sort of thing. Yeah. So really just helps present and stay grounded with what is going on. As well as I talk a lot. I do a lot on Instagram
Mhm.
about current events in the news and how they relate to the astrology. So
Mhm.
helping people understand how each transit, and that's when one planet's talking to another, um, is how that's how all of this comes to real life, how you can see it in real life. And the moon is a messenger. So it carries the energy. It's a translator of light from one planet to the other. So sometimes you can look at what the moon is doing and see how people's conversations change based on what planet it's talking to, what sign it's in. Yeah, it's astrology is literal.
That's amazing. That is incredible. And I when you were describing it, I almost saw it as like surfing on a wave or something, or going down White River rafting sort of. And there's like energies moving around you and knowing like, okay, if I just nudge this way or that, this helps me like keep myself, make the most out of the energies that are flowing through, making the most out of the currents in the river right now. Yeah, that's amazing. And then sort of knowing ahead of time, it acts as an oracle a little bit, knowing that these energies are coming in. You're going to see it happening in other people's conversation, in actions that's happening, even in the news. You're saying that all of that will you have some sort of preview into that, knowing that these are the energies that are at work underneath. That's incredible. That's incredible. So, you also called it a language of compassion. That's powerful. And why is that? Why is it the language of compassion? How do we find that through astrology?
Yeah, so just like talking about the different moon signs. So if you have a moon, your natal moon, meaning the moon was in the sign when you were born, that is in a fire sign of Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. Your energy may be when you get into a situation where there's some kind of conflict or something like that, like you need to deal with it right now, like fire wants to deal with it right now. But if it's in a water sign, your moon, like Cancer, Pisces, or Scorpio, you may need to go alone to know what your feelings are. You can't discuss this right away. You
Mhm.
have to have some time to understand what's your energy and what's someone else's. Water is very porous and absorbing, so it needs maybe some separation. With
Mhm.
an earth sign of Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, you may want to get into problem solving mode. How many times have you heard people say, I don't want you to solve my problem. I just want you to listen to me? Because
Yeah,
they may have an air moon, which is Gemini, Aquarius, or Libra, where there's this desire to talk it out.
yeah.
Now, so when you get in a relationship with someone who has a different moon sign, if you can honor that their needs are different than your needs,
Mm.
and accept it and have compassion for them, that can help you build a better relationship. Hey, my fire moon wants to talk about it right now, but I understand my partner's water moon, new moon needs time to digest. Then, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, that's incredibly just insightful. I love this. This is so perfect for our summit because we talk about discovering who you are on a deeper level to bring in more joy and abundance and freedom. And so knowing that, hey, this is just the way that I am, here's my astrology telling me that I don't need to change it. I don't need to like be anybody else. This is just who I am. And then giving myself the room to do that, to have the time, to have I'm a moon in what am I'm a Gemini rising and a moon in Capricorn. And so, I do like to talk things out and I'm very practical about it, but I need to talk those things out for sure. So I understand what you're talking about, but I love hearing it from that astrological point of view, that point of compassion, the point of grace, to be able to like say to my partner, hey, I just need to talk this out. This is my Gemini coming through. This is my Capricorn coming through. Let's do that. That's amazing. Beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah, because our moon rules what we need to feel safe.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's really important to have that understanding. And yes, we're an amalgamation of all there are 10 planets, but the sun sign, the moon sign, and the rising sign, which speaks about what was coming up over the horizon at the moment of your birth, are the three big three of your personality. So understanding how those three intermingle can really, really help you have a deeper understanding of your own needs as well as the people in your life.
Beautiful. So when you discovered this information and really kind of dug deep into it, is that how you found your mission and purpose?
Yes, yeah, I thought it was just gonna be a hobby, but I mean, the minute I started studying, I just couldn't I'm just vis like voracious appetite to learn more. I'm like a perpetual student. I always have been. I love learning new things,
Yeah.
studying new things and things like that. So I just had to know more and more and more and more. And then as I started to build competency, I was like, oh, this could be something, I could do for a lifetime, and started taking classes with astrologers who were, you know, who do it full time and made a career out of it, and are able to be successful. And yeah, it just I just saw my life differently. And you see it in my chart. I was having what's called a Uranus transit, which is like a once in a lifetime transit. When Uranus was coming to my sun, my identity, and Uranus on your sun is like invasion of the body snatchers. So it was like a real transformation of my personality, my identity, and seeing myself differently. And at the same time, I was having a Saturn square, which Saturn can separate, Saturn matures, Saturn brings achievement after hard work.
Yeah.
So it was a closing square. So it was like I was ready to separate myself from the work I was doing and the money I was making in order to go to a different, like, you could think of Uranus like the fool in the tarot deck that's like skipping along merrily, coming up to a coming up to a cliff and just ready to just jump off to a new beginning, and just having the faith that it will be okay, that this is what I'm meant to do. So yeah, it's been scary and it's been exciting and it's been wild, but I love helping people, impacting their lives, getting the feedback about how their relationships are better, how how they're taking risks and doing things differently. Yeah. So I
That's
love it.
amazing. That's amazing. I could imagine that back then in that moment when all those shifts and things are happening, when your experience of that moment is happening, that it might be scary, but having the information from your astrology chart would ease the fear. Like, nope, you know what? This is right. The timing is right. Look at all these energies happening in my chart and in the transits right now. This is what's happening and it's okay. I can imagine that that would bring you some confidence or some peace with that.
Hmm.
Mhm. Wonderful, wonderful. For some folks who are new to astrology, what would you tell them about the practice of astrology to help bridge that gap? Is there anything that you can say that might allay people's fears around it or their hesitation to dive into this world of astrology?
Yeah, I mean, I just say, you want to go to an astrologer who knows what they're doing, and has. So I would say just select an astrologer carefully. You can come to me. I know what I'm doing. But there should not really be any fear in what you're learning if you're going to someone who you've been either recommended to or have evaluated yourself with. You'll feel the connection. You'll just know who that person is. You'll feel pulled to them. And then when I look at my clients' charts, there's always a connection to my chart.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it can be very helpful to you. Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to hesitate. I just think you need to select someone who knows what they're doing and things. Because there are people who can say things that are, you're trusting someone with intimate details of your life. Your birth chart
Yeah.
is it's like it's the map of your entire life. It speaks to your soul's purpose. It speaks to everything you're going to have in your life. It speaks to, how you relate to other people. So you want to have trust with the person you decide to get a reading from.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like there's some intuitive knowing that comes with this process as well.
Mhm.
Probably not only for you, but the other person having that intuitive sort of connection, the heart space. Well, speaking of that, how does intuition work with astrology? How does that come in? Do they come together?
Yeah, it does for me. Yes, definitely. Yeah, because there are things I see
Yeah.
and I just have to trust my intuition and just speak them.
Yeah.
And through, working with people, oftentimes what I'm seeing is what's going on. So there is a bridge between the just like the math of everything. Astrology is just math essentially, but being able to like see all the patterns, recognize what's going on, that takes some intuition and just, yeah, trust that you have that ability. I also use like oracle cards as well. So I am an intuitive. Yeah.
Beautiful. So those things are really compatible, oracle cards and astrology.
Yeah, for me, yes. Not every astrologer does it, but I think, yeah. Like I do on my Instagram lives, like I'll talk all about the astrology, and then at the end, I call it my Celestial Insights program. I pull three cards, and
Mm.
the three cards will be just exactly what I just said. It's
Beautiful.
hilarious.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really reaffirming. It's sort of the proof is in the pudding. And for anybody who is out there and wants to try astrology, it is like try it out, see what works for you. And if it works for you, then maybe there's something there. I don't think we always have to try and understand necessarily. If it's working, why not use it? Yeah.
Yeah, learning astrology is, I mean, it's a lot of work. So, if people who like are into it, a lot of us are just addicts. We just can't get enough once we get into it. But for the lay person, going to an astrologer for a reading every year or 6 months or whatever can be really, really helpful
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
understand the timing of your life. People often for an astrology reading when they're having some kind of issue where they feel like they don't know where they're heading, or they've had some kind of difficulty like a relationship problem, or you know a job layoff, or issues with their children, or these sorts of difficult things. As tends to be when people turn to astrology
Sure.
for answers, for help. It's a tool.
Sure, sure. I am an Akashic Records reader, so I deal with a lot of past life type of information. So whenever I find somebody who is like what you described, someone who's like voracious and just wanting to learn and gobble everything up, it makes me think that, oh, there's something here about past lives, because we probably did as a species look to the stars, look to the skies, to find our answers. And so, yes, in our most difficult situations, to look that way, to find even God, to find our answers in the sky and in the stars, seems like something that's not only from this lifetime, but might have also been with us through many, many lifetimes. That was something with us. Yeah, beautiful. So, how does astrology help people find their soul purpose, and the idea of destiny or living to our fullest potential, with astrology?
Yeah. So, oh wait, say that again. I'm sorry, I
No,
missed.
no problem. So, how does astrology help us with our soul purposes and the idea of destiny or living to our fullest potential? How can we use astrology in that kind of way?
Okay, so when you get an astrology reading, so the astrology chart is made up of four parts. So it's the planets, which are the actors. You can think of the astrology chart as a stage, and each one has a function to express. And so I talked about how the moon is what we need to feel safe. The sun is our identity. It's our core, who we are, at our essence, like things like Mars, how we take action, Venus, what we desire, Mercury, how we think and communicate. And they're wearing each one is in a sign. So the sign is like the costumes they wear. And then there are 12 houses in the chart, and this is where the action takes place. So the house your sun shines in has a lot to do with where you're meant to shine your light. Is it at work? Is it at home? Is it with groups and organizations? Is it in service, or is it with children? Like you can see that where your sun is shining. And then there's that the houses are like the 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 sets on a stage, the signs are the costumes they wear, and then there's things called aspects, which are the lines between the planets, which are the geometric states, geometric associations, like an opposition or which is they're opposite each other, or square, they're squaring each other. It's just yeah, geometry. And these are the conversations the actors are having. And so one of there's a point in the chart called the midheaven, which is like the highest point we can achieve in our life. And so that speaks to our soul's purpose. So understand your midheaven, understanding what planets are talking to it or what they're doing in the chart can tell you, give insight into what your soul's purpose is. So sorry, I went around the bend and through the woods for that explanation, but that's where it comes in. Your chart explains who you are, what you're here to do, and yeah, and we can do a lot of things, in life, but it can give guidance for that.
Yeah, I love that. I love your descriptions of it because the idea of these are the actors, these are the costumes, these are the sets they're in, that really kind of brings it to life and brings a level of understanding to it that I can relate to. So that's amazing. Thank you for that. I really appreciate going around the bend. That's great. So when someone is working with you with their astrology, what would you say are some best practices for them? Like whether it's how they take that information or how they look at their own chart and what they're learning, what would you recommend for them?
Well, best practices is maybe if you have goals. I like to work with people who have a goal in mind.
Mm,
So I think a best practice is to use the moon cycles to at least take a few minutes to realize when you're having a new moon, set a few intentions, and then use the weekly cycles as just a check-in. You can go as deep as you want or keep it light, but I highly recommend people at least pay attention to the moon cycles, because there's certain ones that are really important in our life when they're like having a conversation with one of our natal planets. Not every full moon, not every new moon and full moon has the same impact in our life, but these are when like big things happen. So
yeah.
yeah, so I would recommend that. And that's my free gift. My guide is setting intentions with the moon cycle. So people can download that, and it has all the information about all of the new moon, first quarter, full moon, and last quarter moon dates, and guidance to how to use it in order to understand what's going on in your life, and set intentions to bring what you want to life.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That sounds like an amazing gift. I'm sure everybody could use something like that, especially during this time when everyone's talking about manifestation and law of attraction and things like that. It seems like that would work really well to do it along with a moon cycle, that the idea of law of attraction, to do that together. So that seems really great. So tell us about some of the other work that you do. I know that you give personal readings, of course, but what else do you do besides that?
Yeah, so I give personal astrology readings. I teach classes. I have a moon mastery program for people who really want to understand themselves better through the lens of astrology and the moon.
Mm,
And then I do events like corporate events, or people have me come to birthday parties or bachelorette parties, things like that. And yeah, I have a podcast called the Celestial Insights Podcast
Love
to
that
help
name.
you navigate the week. I do a form of astrology called horary readings, where you don't need your birth time or anything. It's the astrology of burning questions. So it's like, what do I need to know about this job? Is this a good career move for me? Where's my lost pet? Yeah, it can answer all kinds of questions. What do I need to know about this relationship? Are we ever going to be able to come together? Yeah. is this health problem serious, or I mean, you should go to the doctor for any health problem, but astrology can give you some deeper insights into some things as well. Like it can help you understand what happened most recently, what's likely to happen next, and can be just one of the tools in your tool belt that you use to make decisions.
Beautiful. I didn't know that there was an astrology where you didn't need your birth time, horary astrology.
Horary, Horary. It's the
Yeah.
astrology of the hour. And so a person asks a question of the astrologer, and when the astrologer understands the question, they cast a chart, and the planets represent the people involved in the question, and yeah, their relative speed, what they're talking to next. It's incredible. You
Wow.
really understand how much the universe is, the synchronicity and the when you see horary at work, it's unbelievable. So everything is rooted in your natal chart, so that you're asking this question of the astrologer is also going to be tied into your personal natal chart. So yeah, it's incredible.
Wow. So you've really seen it at work. You've really seen.
It, it's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's really true for people. That's amazing. That's amazing.
yeah.
So how do you think that astrology is actually working with us? Like, is it that these planets, these energies are influencing us, or is it like that saying is so above, so it
As
is
above, so
above?
below,
Is
as
it that?
within, so
Yeah.
with that. Yeah. So I see it as the planets are a reflection of what's going on Earth. I see it as the Cliff Notes
Mhm.
kind of thing. Yeah. It just represents the timing of everything that's happening.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so you can see that and look at it almost as a map. And because it is, measurable, like you said, it's math, it's geometry, we can project those things forward and be able to see where the conversation's going, maybe tomorrow, next week, next year, and to get some information there as well to help guide us in the
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I say that. I mean, the moon rules the tides. The moon can move the ocean. So what
Oh,
is
that's
it
true.
doing to so influence potentially. And I mean, there's been studies about, what's going on Jupiter and how it influences, whatever on Earth. But
Yeah.
I really see it as this like reflection, this mirror.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, you're right. I've seen also studies about things that happen on the sun and how it sends like certain energetic waves or whatever to us here on Earth and will actually affect our connection, our cellular data, all of those
The
things.
solar flares, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's wonderful. Maybe it's a little bit of both even. Who's to say really? But either way, it seems like it's very useful and on the ground and you can see it working in people's lives.
Mm,
Beautiful.
yeah.
So, if someone is new to this, or from your expert opinion, what would you say are some don'ts, things to avoid while working with our astrology?
Don't use fear-based astrology, because you can look at something and think, "Oh my God, am I going to be hit by a train?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
no, you're just being awakened to something. Yeah, and I have to do this for myself. I see a transit coming and be like, "Uh-oh."
I love that. I love the idea of like focusing on the positive side of that and maybe just taking anything because sometimes there are maybe negative messages that come through like, ooh, watch out for this. There's some kind of, some energy that seems to be rubbing up against itself or something like that. That does come through sometimes in astrological readings. But I love that message of like not to buy into the fear, not to
Yeah,
use it in that kind of way, sort of
yeah.
against ourselves.
I mean, if something's shouting at me, I'll say, this is a time where there may be conflict in your life, or,
Yeah.
be especially aware of driving and moving carefully because you're having XYZ.
Yeah.
If anything comes up, there's certain transits, anything comes up, go to the doctor. This is a time where sometimes people have health concerns.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do believe in like being honest with people, but like not, drowning in the fear of what could happen.
Yeah,
Yeah, could
yeah.
be. Yeah, people can let themselves get overwhelmed.
Yeah, yeah. And if you do think about the law of attraction, maybe focusing in on that is just giving it a little bit too much energy, and
Mhm.
it might even, it could make it worse. So, like, just
Yeah.
keeping that all in perspective seems to be a great recommendation. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's amazing. I know that you talked to us a little bit about the free gift that you brought, and thank you so much for that. I'll be sure to have that on the website and the speaker page that people can find. But where else can people find you?
Yeah, so the Celestial Insights podcast
Yeah.
is available everywhere. Astrologybyceleste.com is my website. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Instagram is my main platform at Astrology by Celeste everywhere. Yes.
Well,
And
beautiful.
you can look at my Yelp reviews if you want to learn more about me as well. You can get to them from my webpage. And I send a newsletter twice a month about the new moon and the full moon
Beautiful, beautiful. I
if
love
you're on my newsletter list.
Absolutely beautiful. I love that. I love the getting into the energy of the moon cycles because they're so right there. They're readily apparent, and we can see it. And it's always a reminder of like, okay, I got to set my intentions. I got to get into the energy of this and ride that wave. So I love that astrology can really help us in that kind of way. Beautiful. So thank you so much, Celeste, for being here. We're coming up to the end of our time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope that everyone out there has found this talk to be inspiring. That you've learned a little bit something about astrology, and especially about Celeste and her incredible work. Thank you so much, Celeste, for being here. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much. I had a great time speaking with you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And for everyone else out there, please join us again tomorrow. We will have another one of these talks where you can learn about a different modality and learn another way to connect in with ourselves deeper to create more joy and freedom and abundance. I'll see you there. Bye bye.